name, I must say.
When did it strike you that there was like a Grimley mania? That this was more than just a funny character? That people were walking around the way they were walking around a few years ago going, excuse me. They were walking around doing feeble imitations of Ed Grimley.
Well, I guess, you know, doing Saturday Night Live, you were always aware of what character was being received well because there was a reaction when you did it again. So I think that I had done it once or something, and then a couple of shows later I did Ed Grimley again, and suddenly there was this reaction, so you kind of...
The second Ed Grimley walked through the door and onto the set of a skit, people went berserk.
Yeah, it was great. It was the greatest kind of kick to get into it, because you were always kind of nervous and wondering if you were going to blow it and forget, you know, what you'd planned to do. But doing a character like that and starting a scene and suddenly it was, everyone immediately liked you, you could barely not do well.
Where did this guy come from?
It was a combination of a few people I knew, you know, in high school. There was a guy I knew who used to just, he was into photography, and his voice went up. He'd say, you know, I took a lot of slides in the weekend. I hope that you would somehow find time so that you could see my slides that I took on the weekend. So there was that guy.
Usually has a pencil box that has all the state capitals on it. And
yeah, yeah. And then there was another guy who kind of talked like this, you know, kind of like talk like this. So I kind of combined the voices, and suddenly it was like this, you know. And I was doing it on the stage at Second City, and it was a scene called Sexist. It was about a guy who was auditioning for a job, and a girl was auditioning for a job. They were both auditioning for the same job, and there was one employer. And the employer was Peter Ackroyd, Dan's brother, and this is in Second City, Toronto. And so I used to, like, slick the hair up a little bit in the front, and then he would say that, he said, boy, last night that hair was, I think it was getting taller every night. So as a joke, I stuck it right up to make him laugh, and the audience laughed. And my instinct is, if they laugh, then you just don't change it, you know.
In my opinion, you might have a different favorite, but the single greatest one was when Howard Cosell showed up as what, Grimley's uncle or something, or his cousin?
He was Uncle Basil or something. And Howard was great. Howard
was
funny.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But, you know, Howard had never seen the character, had no idea what it was about. And, yeah, I'll do it. And so we did the dress rehearsal, and it went, you know, pretty well. And then they changed the audiences. You know, they have a dress rehearsal Saturday night at 7:30, and the second one for the live audience. And we were having notes in between, and I said to Howard, I said, you know, Howard, I didn't really know Howard, but I said, Howard, because someone had told me his name was Howard. I said, Howard, you know, it was great what you did, but, you know, tonight, you know what would be even better, Howard, is, it's Howard, right? I said, if you do the teeth, get your teeth like this, you know?
Yeah.
And he just stared at me, smoking a cigar, staring at me. And I just stared back at him. So we just stared for a while. And then Bob Tischer, the producer, said, well, anyway, I'm sure it's going to be a good show. So about 10 minutes later, I was in my dressing room, and my dressing room was beside the makeup room. And I heard Howard talking to Tischer saying, I'll do the scene, but I'm not doing the friggin' teeth, okay? And you don't have to do it, Howard. You don't have to do the teeth. The teeth are unimportant. But he got an unbelievable reaction without the teeth, anyway.
What do you think it is about Grimley, other than the absurdity of the character, that endears him to people? Not just makes people laugh, but makes them feel affectionately toward this preposterous character.
I don't know. I think it's, you know, he just has these observations based on joy. He's like this adult who's never become jaded by life in any way. He's like a heart attack. Someone who's had a heart attack and they survive it, and they're just, you know, filled with, they're smelling the roses for the first time. He's like that. He just hasn't had the heart attack. So if the phone rings, every time the phone rings, he'll be excited. Oh, the phone, isn't the phone decent? There's always such a sense of mystery, you know, which is true when you think of it.
Jackie Rogers Jr.
Yes.
Springs from your head. Where'd the seed come from? Who put the seed in there?
I don't know. Jackie is everything that is kind of disgusting in show business. He's the most narcissistic, silliest character I do. I mean, he's the kind of guy that, you know, in a show I did a couple years ago where he fell out a window and actually fell out of a 4-story window, smashed through the roof of a lion's cage and fell into a cage with a lion, although he didn't know it right away, but was so absorbed with himself that the first thing he said was, gee, I never realized what tiny hands I have. So it kind of sums up Jackalope.
Night Live after just 1 year. Did you ever look back? Or was that something where you said...
I'm out. I made it. Oh, God, thank you, Mama.
Was it a deal where when you came in you said 1 year, no matter how good, no matter what happens, 1 year is it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Why did you confine yourself to just that? What was your thinking?
Oh, I had known the other casts, and was well aware of what that show, the stress of that show, and the pressure of that show. And I had done 3 years of SCTV. And so to me, what was interesting with Saturday Night Live was it was a different kind of show, but it's an all-consuming show, especially if you're writing your own material. Every waking hour, mine was anyway. I mean, maybe I did it all wrong. Maybe there's an easier way to do it. For me, I didn't know an easy way to do it. I had to be there all the time, and by the end of the season, you're saying it's like climbing Mount Everest. You say, that's great, but who wants to climb again? I think I'll pass.
Catch. The HBO special airs when?
June 3rd, Saturday.
Now, did you do it as a production kind of thing where you did separate scenes and put them together, or is this in front of a live audience?
No, it's separate scenes. It's called I, Martin Short Goes Hollywood, and the idea is just it's really about the that perception of that you can't do art in Hollywood. It's the antithesis of the Woody Allen perception that you can only do art in New York, and it's a satiric look at Hollywood.
A lot of good people on that special with you too, right?
Yes, some great Christopher Guest and Tracy Ullman and Joe Flaherty and Dave Thomas and who am I now? There's Catherine O'Hara.
Do you see the full range of Martin Short characters?
You see quite a few characters in this, yes.
Yeah.
There's some new ones.
Who are some of the new ones, or would that be giving it away?
Yes, it would be giving it away, and this is who you'll see. No, you'll see Dale O'Day, who's a wonderful dancer from the 40s. He's kind of like a Jack Haley Sr. type.
He has a little Paul Schaefer in his voice.
No, Paul's more nasal, like that.
Yeah, he is a little. Yeah, I guess.
Dale is just like that, I suppose. If I only had a heart,
So many of the people who became icons in American comedy came out of Canada in the last generation. Is there a difference in the Canadian sense of humor, generally?
No, I think it's sometimes easier for Canadians to observe more because we're sitting in an interesting position. We grow up with the BBC, we grow up with CBC in Canada, and we grow up with NBC, ABC, and CBS. And so we're really observing all these, we're like the middle sister, of these three countries. So we observe a great deal. Also, they tend not to get to us right away, We're, as Canadian actors, we're working, doing lots of different things, learning a lot of just being in front of the camera, while not becoming stars per se. And then by the time they're saying, gee, maybe we should fly up to Toronto and see what they have up there. Well, we've done enough that we have a little bit more experience, and suddenly they say, wow, there's a whole untapped oil well here, which was basically SCTV.
Do you think that there's some kind of general sort of life experience that's more likely to give rise to a comedian? Like, is it likely that somebody who grows up in a privileged environment and is at the Polo Club will become a comic?
I don't know. I grew up in a kind of privileged way, and I don't think that it was harder for me to see things comedically. I don't think you have to grow up in a poor area of Philadelphia to become a comedian. I think you can. I think that comedy is something that is just you. In my family, everyone was funny, and comedy was the way of life. It was like the trickle-down theory, comedically. And I was the youngest of five, and and you were just, you know, it was just the norm was to do jokes and be light about things, you know, and then you take that in your life.
Beginning Saturday, June 3rd, and running throughout the month of June, the HBO special starring Martin Short, Martin Short, Goes Hollywood.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat ring, Bob. It's Bob, right?
It is Bob. You've mastered that after half an hour. How would Ed Grimley say goodnight? We're at the see you later portion.
He'd say it's been very decent being on later. Give me a break. I suppose it hasn't.
It's not for me to say, but Johnny Mathis will. Tomorrow on Later.